we don't have to be responsible for so many things. I mean, and there's, what is also called mixed feelings too. You are probably grateful and, feeling resentment too. You are probably very happy and glad that you came here, and also, grieving the losses of experiences that you could have had in Korea. Like, I have a lot of feelings when I talk about the experience as an immigrant child. Something that's always kind of suppressed me was that idea of should and that responsibility.
Hi, this is your host, Minli. I'm excited to bring you a mental health series, Let's Talk 마음이야기.
Official name is Hyun Kim. I'm a clinical psychologist practicing in New York and New Jersey. I'm also an assistant professor at Columbia University Irving Medical Center. Here I do research on sleep and mood and brain functioning.
And also you have a Korean book published, Boundary, right?
Yes, right, yeah. As the name implies, it's a book about boundaries that we talk a lot about these days in psychology and mental health.
It is a huge topic, and a topic that's very complicated and hard to understand.
That's right. It seems a bit abstract. So in my book, I really try to put a lot of examples and in what different situations or what dimensions of life we can apply boundaries. So when we first think about boundaries, we think about relationships and like drawing boundaries between people. But boundaries can be found like within my internal selves, like my emotions, boundaries between work and life, and being more aware of what I do have control over versus not. So boundary is a very big concept, but it's very applicable to different aspects of your life.
So you wrote the book in Korean.
I did.
100% Korean.
100%.
Wow. And it was interesting because the title of the book is Boundary or Boundaries, and your Korean title is still 바운더리.
Right.
So there's no word for boundary in Korean?
So I guess there is a very direct translation, and we could say something like 경계선 or 경계, but I think I didn't really like the connotation it had, the feeling or the initial impression of that word, because there's also a Korean saying that's like, oh, 선 긋는다. We're drawing lines between you and me and other people. And that's not really a positive or very warm expression. So I wanted to specifically tease that apart from drawing lines, because I describe boundaries as more of a space. Like if you're thinking about drawing boundaries, that's like pushing other people. But I wanted to emphasize the concept of reserving space for me. So saying yes to myself doesn't necessarily mean saying no to other people. It can be saying yes to myself and my values and inviting people over. So I say that the ultimate goal of boundaries is for me to have a stronger and more meaningful connection with other people too, and for me to kind of save up all that energy to be able to do that.
You're not wasting energy on something that's not important or necessary.
Exactly, yeah. So that's why value is a huge keyword in identifying and practicing your boundaries.
How important is space? Because my podcast, Take 1.5 podcast, and the tagline is always in between spaces, right?
Yes.
We're in the in between space. Like what is that in between space?
Exactly. Yeah. So in terms of the concept of boundaries, I think about that space as in, I mean, it could mean a lot of things, as you said. It could be physical space, how I show up, but also mental space. How much of a room, flexibility do I have in terms of feeling empowered, feeling authoritative about the things that I want to do with my life? How do I make my life align with my values? And those are all within spaces that we can practice. We often feel like we don't have enough room or space because we feel like we don't have enough options. We're not given with enough control or empowerment. But so my invitation to just people that I encounter and talking about boundaries is to think about, well, what are your realms, your ranges of options that you can practice and really use your voice and decision making.
That really makes me ponder on many different things. I don't know, gives me some sort of affirmation or confidence that in 1.5 space is a mental space or emotional space, and that we could own it and empower it.
Yes. I like that word a lot. Ownership, empowerment, having authority. And I think that's something that as immigrants, as Korean Americans, we often forget about because we feel like, oh, we are in a different land. We are in a different culture. So we have to kind of follow. And something that I've learned over the years is that it's not necessarily true. We can still feel empowered and try to adapt to our new environment, but it doesn't really have to happen at the cost of the other. So it doesn't have to be either this or that. We can be adjusting and adapting and feel empowered about my own identity and my own culture too.
So it's not mutually exclusive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Like when I talk about boundaries with 1.5 and Korean Americans, I want to also emphasize that drawing boundaries should not come at the cost of you losing respect or relationship. The goal of boundaries is to enhance relationship and your presence in a community too. So, so more context to this. I've always, just like being in academia, I have multiple layers of minority hats at my current work too. I'm Asian. I'm a female, younger than most people here. And I'm also a PhD in a medical center. So in multiple ways, I feel like I stand out. And for me to kind of compensate for not being a majority was to be very willing, very, polite, hardworking, saying yes to everything. In a way also like obedient to submissive. And I've thought that's my strength. And like throughout graduate, like I mean, as a trainee, there's always that mindset of like, oh, I need to do, take care of other things for the professors. But up to a certain point, that could be very valuable. And hardworking is kind of given. We already know we're very hardworking.
Yeah.
But I think not drawing boundaries is, like you can be hardworking and practice boundaries at the same time. I think it's so easy to lose that, especially as a young immigrant in this Korean American in this country. We have so many more assets that we could offer. But just being yes and being, open-minded about just doing everything, being responsible, those are not the only assets. So I think it just makes us be more competent and empowering when we are able to say no to some of the requests that we're not willing to do. Being able to speak up, which I'm still not very good at that, but I've certainly learned ways that fits my personality and can be impactful. So when somebody says something that's kind of, unintentionally ignorant, something that says something about my race or my, something that could offend women, then instead of just like, haha, laughing it off and just like being resentful in the inside, there are ways that we can speak up. When people say things like, where are you from? Or, oh, like, do you speak English? Or like, your English is so good. Or like, things like that. There are ways that we can gently remind them that that's not how I want to be treated. So, some of my key responses would be, what do you mean? Like demeanor wise, I'm not being offensive. I'm not being aggressive. I am still being open-minded, but what I'm saying is that, what you're saying is not connecting with me. Help me out. Let's figure this out. But it's so easy for us to forget there is an in-between where we still can be gentle and expressive at the same time. And it's not like I just want to emphasize that we have so many other skill sets that we can offer in our professional areas other than our nice, gentle, kind of this like cute characteristics. So just really show that off in the professional setting too. That's if I could tell like a 20-year-old version of me, then I think I would really emphasize that. I don't have to sacrifice my time. I don't have to go overboard. Just open my boundaries to, succeed in career. I can balance both.
That's so important and so good. Yeah.
It's not easy. I'm not saying that it's easy, but it takes a practice. And I think sometimes it sounds silly, but I even practice in front of the mirror. Like, about that comment that I heard over email, I need to talk about it with my colleague. How am I going to convey it? How am I going to deliver it? So then I would practice saying that in a very matter-of-fact way, in a very open-minded attitude, which can be combined kind of in your own style.
Yeah. Wow, that's really good. That's really good.
Is it?
Firm
but something
and
that,
gentle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's such a high skill.
It is.
Yeah, that's
but
good.
It's a high skill that can be achieved.
That's right.
Very doable.
Yeah, very doable. I like that a lot. So you're sitting in your office in Columbia.
I am,
at
yes.
Columbia University. Woohoo! Yeah, I've seen your interviews on especially Korean media, and you're fully fluent in Korean. And
oh, thank you. Yeah, but that's something that I struggle with too, to be honest. But I always just really liked writing. So I guess writing in journals in Korean, because that's what I started with ever since I learned to write in Korean. So I think that helped a lot. I still try to read books in Korean. I prefer reading in Korean so that I don't forget.
do you?
I do, yeah. And then, I don't know, it just feels more like a leisure time for me because I read a lot of things throughout the day.
Yeah.
So switching to Korean mode, I guess, it's more relaxing to me, yeah. But I first started writing, I first started blogging in Korean during COVID because I wanted to give more mental health information to the Korean audience. So that's when I felt very self-conscious about my Korean writing. But I guess at that moment, a lot of people weren't sleeping well, and sleep is my area of expertise, mental health. So I started, Monica, like, Hyuna, just like, you can just do it. It doesn't have to be perfect. Even if you're wrong on your, like, 맞춤법, people will get it, and that's not that important. If the substance of information is there. So I think that was my effort to also break that fear of being wrong or being imperfect, but also do something that's more meaningful to me. It's like, well, would I miss this opportunity to do something that could be helpful to other people because I have this fear of not being perfect? And then, with that question, the answer was no. Like, that's fine. And then that's how I got to write a book in Korean, because it started with blog post, and then they added up, and then I got a message from the publisher asking if I would be interested in publishing these, and they did. And to be honest, they did a lot of editing,
Of course.
too, from the publisher too. So I think they really just made it much more polished.
Your research is right now focused on sleep.
Yeah, so I'm interested in the intersection of sleep, or in interactions between sleep, mood, and cognitive performance. I think sleep can be a gateway to access a lot of different, and we call this, broadly psychiatry or mental health, like even dementia, cognitive impairment, but depression, anxiety. And like one, I guess, what we call transdiagnostic feature of these different mental health conditions is sleep. So it's a very easy topic to get into. So like we can talk about sleep with a lot of people.
Yeah.
It may be a little harder to talk about mental health or suicidal ideation or, with some of the more, I guess, reserved conservative populations. But sleep, people can just talk about it all the time. And everybody's interested. So I'm trying to use sleep as an avenue to get to mental health of people of diverse populations, especially
Wow.
Korean Americans. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really amazing. That it's a gateway to
Yes.
many different types of mental health
Right.
topics. That's really interesting. So, what's the correlation between cognitive function with lack of sleep?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a range. It could be, you can see the impact of sleep sort of on a day-to-day functions. Like, I didn't get a good night's sleep last night because as I mentioned, I have a cold. Like this morning, I was feeling, and we call this brain fog too. Like sometimes, like I feel scattered.
Yeah.
I don't remember as much. My processing speed or multitasking abilities may be reduced a little bit because of the impact of sleep. And in I guess like a longer term, we talk about even like cognitive disorders like dementia, Alzheimer's disease. So when we are in these deep stages of sleep, our brain sort of clears out these neurotoxins. They're called amyloid. So it does this like kind of like a garbage truck type of role. So sleep does. But if we don't sleep, these neurotoxins build up in the brain in the form of Alzheimer's disease pathology. And when that continues over time, that's when we start seeing behavioral changes or changes in cognitive functioning. So yeah, it could be like day to day and in the long term too. But I also want to highlight that just because it does have an impact day to day, it's necessarily going to lead to Alzheimer's disease because a lot could happen within those decades of brain aging too. And like there's genetics, there's environmental, there's lifestyle factors, like all of these physical, health and medications that all play into developing Alzheimer's disease. So I just don't want, my research or the messages that I try to convey in my message scares people with, I'm not getting good sleep, I'm going to get Alzheimer's disease. It's not that direct correlation.
It's not that simple, I guess.
Yeah, it is pretty complicated. But if you are not sleeping well, it's good to get, started early and try to change that course of that, try to modify that.
Yeah. Do you think Korean people, generally speaking, like we have a very strong belief or stereotype against mental health and talking about mental health? Do you still see that in your practice?
So, yes, my short answer to that question is yes. But I mean, if they have reached out to me, they've already gotten past a lot of that already. What seems more palpable to me is the whole, I guess, weighing of the cost and the confidentiality and the effort and all of those, and seeing those as investment for my overall well-being.
Yeah.
And it's hard to really convince people to come in for therapy, Korean Americans especially, before things are becoming more severe. So I guess in the US, I guess more broadly speaking, I guess, if we just call them Americans broadly, they're more used to thinking therapy as something that's good for their self-care. So before something is broken. But for Koreans, it's harder to think about it that way. And if it's like really at the broken stage, if something really has happened, then I need to seek treatment. So I always try to emphasize preventative efforts in taking care of your mental health. And that applies to me too. So like I would kind of regularly dump out my, I guess, emotional baggage.
Yeah.
I will actively engage in self-care. And that certainly does help me not go down the, like a darker side, I guess, like not feel more, not get to like a more depressed or anxious state. And yeah, I guess even among people that I know who I don't meet for work, there's still a wide, I guess, like the idea of therapy being something, oh, that's for people who are sick. That's for people who are really broken. That idea is still very much prevalent, I would say. So with my friends, I mean, I wouldn't like go into talking so much about like what this is and what therapy is, but I do hope that the overall impression of mental health service could change over time. And I do also see that it is gradually changing over time. So it is, it is on a positive trajectory.
So a lot of advocacy is needed still.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. So that's also a reason why I try to also disclose that I do get therapy. I'm not always on, seek psychotherapy, but I do often have a therapist who I can meet weekly to kind of, to process how I'm feeling, what my relationship pattern is like. And I do see that as a preventative effort, and also just for myself to be more present with my clients and with my family too.
I like the word that you use, dump out. These things that's like, it's like emptying out your trash can on your MacBook.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
I was looking at your CV and I found it interesting that you did your master's in Korea, like 고려대학교.
Yes.
How did that happen? Isn't that wow?
So it's a long story. When I first came to the States in 1999, my parents and my family, we weren't planning on immigrating to the US. We just came for 1 year before I entered middle school. My aunt was in Los Angeles, so, like it was a perfect way to just get 1 year of exposure to the American culture and return back to Korea to continue my education. And what I found was that 1 year was not enough. I mean, learning English is going to be my lifelong quest. So I did ask my parents, well, can we find ways to stay a little longer? And then it just became longer and longer. Yeah, there was an advantage of going to a UC system like University of California. So it was kind of a natural transition to stay through college. And then after college, with my student visa ending, I didn't have a legal status in the US. So after that, I had to either apply to graduate school for another student visa or return to Korea. I wasn't ready for graduate school at that time. So my choice was to go back to Korea, gain some more research. And then fortunately, my research advisor at the time had a research project, like collaboration with Korea University and Harvard. It was like a multi-institute collaboration. And I was, conducting cognitive assessments in English and in Korean. So I got put in as like a main person for that collaboration. And then while I was there, my advisor at Korea University, he suggested, while you're here, why don't you do your master's? So I entered as a student, attended classes in Korean. I was kind of like so lost with a lot of terminologies.
All over again.
Yeah, it was quite hard. I spoke a lot of like English words in between too. And then I applied for PhD in the States, and that's how I came back. And then now I have green card and citizenship. So I'm staying here. But yeah, I truly did have an in-between identity for a very long time. And I would still say that I still feel like I'm in between, very perfectly Korean American. But status, that visa status was just one, I guess, symbol that represented how, I guess, unstable, imperfect I was during that time.
I mean, it kind of worked out for you, but still you had to go back to Korea after growing up in the States for so long.
Yes, that's right.
And study,
Right.
work on your degree in what, psychology, biomedics?
Yeah. It was neurobiology. So fortunately in like biology, a lot of terms overlap. So that was nice. I think it was more the cultural aspect of my stay that was harder, more than academic work.
Really?
So I was there for 3 years before coming back to the States. But those 3 years were the years that made me really feel lost, confused, unsure about who I am, what I want. And I think I would say the book Boundaries really came to be because of those 3 years of experience in Korea. So yeah, in many ways, those 3 years were very like crucial and pivotal in shaping my, I guess, career trajectory too.
Were you feeling, again, I don't belong here?
Oh yeah, for sure. And that was more of like I felt betrayed. I felt very disappointed because the 10 plus years that I was living in California as a Korean, I didn't even call myself Korean American because when people ask me, where are you from? I didn't even get offended because I was like, I'm Korean. I'm from Korea. But my experience of going back to Korea after spending so much time in the US was that I was a stranger. I was very much a stranger. And I spoke differently. I guess my attitude was different. My social interactions were different. My boundaries were not respected at all. And so I would often say no to things that other students say yes to. And then that, led to some problems. So I felt like, wow, I really don't belong anywhere. I'm not Korean, I'm not American, then who am I? And I think that was really troubling because I had the idea that I had to be either completely Korean or American. Like I had this black and white type of thinking at the time. And I guess what I realize now is that I don't have to be. I can be part this and some of this. And I don't really have to have a single category. But I am me. I can be defined by so many different adjectives and nouns. And, but at that time I was struggling trying to fit in.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. It must have been so hard. And you're in your early 20s. You're so young too,
I was, yeah.
Yeah. And you're still trying to figure out who you are at that age. And
Definitely.
You're put into this very foreign place where you feel like, I should know this.
Exactly. I think that was what I mean by I felt betrayed because I thought I knew. I thought I was very completely Korean. And then the fact that I felt like I didn't know. I didn't know how to fit in.
I mean, of course, I don't know your experience, but just hearing that makes my heart drop a little bit,
Maybe because we have some, I guess, overlaps in our experiences, even although it's not 100% the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I read somewhere that you said writing your book Boundary, it was sort of a healing process for you. So is this what you mean?
Yes. So, in that sense, I guess, and I guess also as a working mother too, that it was just time for me. And I also did in the epilogue of my book that I am still in the process of learning me and boundaries. I'm the author of the book called Boundaries, but I am still working on it. So it's an invitation for other people, like readers who have never encountered the concept of boundary, to think, oh, okay, this is just something that I can think about for my life. Like it is flexible, it is malleable. And then for me to reflect on these days, like my days at Korea University, my days of immigrating to the US at the age of 13, like all of these and my learning and the graduate studies. I think this book is where everything kind of came together. And was a healing process because I got to really reflect a lot on who I am. Why am I writing this book? Why do I care about talking about this topic?
Yeah.
So a lot of those was in itself was very therapeutic.
So I wonder, how do you do self-care as a working mom, very busy professional? You're speaking here and there, appearing. I mean, what does that mean to you, self-care?
Yeah. Oh, that's such an important and valuable question. I think about that kind of on a daily level. And I think it's important to first know where you feel like your joy. And not just like, oh, like when I go on this cruise, when I go on vacation, but like on your day to day, like what makes your life meaningful and enjoyable. And for me, I've been sort of very acutely aware of, what makes me happy because there have been very dark times. And I've actively tried to seek those. And now I feel like I have a good handle and a good list of things that make me feel valued and happy. So I think I always go back to what I liked as a kid as well. I grew up in Gwacheon, Gyeonggi-do.
Yeah.
Very mountainous area. When I was there, when I was little, it was even more rural than how it is now. And I remember going to the mountains. I remember going to these streams to catch 다슬기. And just like, watching chestnuts fall, hearing the bugs and all these I don't know, just this nature experience has really shaped my identity as well. So I always go back to the nature. I take a walk. I look for opportunities to just be out where the trees are, and just sit down, open a book. And that just experience is really just very precious to me. And I feel very rested in those moments. And so I think it's important to understand what is your unique ways of finding peace. And I think it's also not just about what, but also when and how. So for me, when has always been an issue. When can I fit this in my schedule? But for me, I do have like an hour and a half of downtime after I put my kids to sleep and I finish my work at nighttime too. And then before I go to sleep, I would scroll down Instagram, and that's also a fun time for me too. So, I'm okay with that. But I also save at least 30 minutes, on reading or something that I can just unplug myself, to, and just go back to. So for me, that's often reading. I like paper books still. So for me, that's still very therapeutic. I write. So just things like that seem very trivial, but they are the moments that really keep me grounded. I try to really hold on to those moments because I know those are my favorites. So if I'm just if my mind is somewhere else, I try to pick it up, bring it back to now, and just really enjoy those first few sips of hot coffee and just that peacefulness. Those are just few seconds, but they really keep my fuel in. And I feel happier after those few seconds. So I think it's about being mindful of when you're feeling joy and being really grounded to those moments and really making time for yourself to do that. And I guess I already spoke to the how of doing it too, but it's so easy to forget an appointment with myself. So for example, if I'm saying, I'm going to go for a run for 30 minutes from 12:30 to 1. It's just something that I made with myself, not important. But I think those moments get lost so easily. And when that is prolonged, you don't have time for yourself. So I think it's important to treat an appointment with yourself as if you're making an appointment with a friend or your coworker. So I would put that in the calendar. I would have a purple box saying Pilates, running, reading, because I made a promise. It's a commitment that I'm making with myself. And over the long run, it'll really help me become a more full and better person.
Also, what I just realized is that these little moments I was not being mindful that these bring me joy, or these are joyful moments or meaningful moments, so that I forgot to enjoy them.
And I mean, and also, I'm not mindful all the time. So this is a constant reminder and a cognitive effort, like a reminder that I have to give to myself too. And I think, also thinking about work and parenting as homeworks or things to achieve, productivity, I think that also makes us feel like it much harder. I just really happen to also like what I'm doing for work. I also just really enjoy spending time with my kids. There is a childish side of me. And I think we all do, but we just forget about that. But I've gotten from, I guess, like parenting's 선배 that the most common comment that I got was enjoy while your kids are young.
Yeah.
I've heard that so many times, and I believe it. I believe that is true. So I try to remind myself very consciously that they're young, they're so cute right now. Just be childish with them. Just dance to a silly song. Just go and run with them at the playground. So even when I'm in the parenting mode, it's not necessarily categorized as work or productivity mode. I am also enjoying those moments. And I think it's really helpful to go back to values in those moments too. When I'm grant writing, some of these sections are really boring. Like I have to write like budgets. I have to write these letters of support. These are like all boring work. But going back to like, why am I doing this? What is so meaningful and valuable about this? Oh, I really want to do this type of work so it could benefit the community and I could grow as a, scholar. Then it just makes it more doable.
Yeah.
And there's some joy that you can find in the process.
I learn so much from my guests every single time. And, I pick up like nuggets of wisdom from everyone. And one thing that I just thought of is to have emotional connection with something, right? And in this case, this person was talking about learning Korean as a second language for our children. She talked about first, let them experience the emotional connection with the language, not just as you're Korean, you need to learn Korean. So even for this, why am I doing...
Exactly.
Why am I being a parent? Why am I grant writing? Why am I doing this podcast? There is an emotional connection, and that fills my cup.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. Just in everything that we do, it's not about like, I should be doing this. It's more about like, why? Why should I? I always talk about should as a good pause word. If there is like, I should do this, then that makes me pause. And I think we all should.
Yes.
Ironically, using the word should again. But
Pause.
we should pause at the should words and think, why though? Like, for what advantage or benefit?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's most likely going to be tied to your value. It's more like, may I grant myself this time to go exercise? May I give myself the permission to enjoy my time with kids rather than I should be exercising. I should be, a good parent.
I said to my husband, because he uses the word should a lot, I said, don't use should. Nothing should.
Yeah,
But I
we
should
all
say
do.
pause.
Exactly. That's a pause word. Yeah.
Good one. My takeaway today, pause. Should
Pause.
equals pause.
Yes, that's easy to remember.
And I talked about this with a friend of mine the other day while we're coding. She's a social worker. And the resentment that I honestly have very little towards my immigrant parents. I talked about this with her, and I had some time to self-reflect after my mom's like 3-week visit with me. And I don't know what she felt, but I was going, my emotion and mood was going up and down, going crazy, because I feel like I should be very grateful and very honoring and very kind and loving to my mom. But I felt very betrayed in a sense, and also very resentful. So I think because what I found from my introspection was like the word should was always kind of, like attached to me. Like you should do well, you should be good, you should succeed, you should, be 효녀 or good sister, you know, 큰딸. So I think that really brings me to a place where like I don't want to attach should to anything in my life. I reject it. Like I reject idea. Yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
That saying. Just brings up so much for me too.
Yeah.
So, no, please go ahead.
Yeah. So it does bring up so much. I think for most of our listeners, for this podcast especially, right? Because it's such a big kind of burden.
Yeah.
Like, what do you call it? Like the 짐 on your
yes.
어깨?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Because we don't realize it, but yeah.
So if there is one thing that so coming here, driving into New York and thinking about the podcast. So if I wanted to say one thing to, I guess, younger 1.5 generations or children of immigrants, Korean diaspora, whatever, groups that we can call ourselves, is that also, there's no should. So you're absolutely right. And then we don't have to be responsible for so many things. I mean, and there's, what is also called mixed feelings too. You are probably grateful and, feeling resentment too. You are probably very happy and glad that you came here and also, grieving the losses of experiences that you could have had in Korea. Like I have a lot of feelings when I talk about the experience as an immigrant child. The 13-year-old me was just going through a lot.
Yeah.
And something that's always kind of suppressed me was that idea of should and that responsibility. So when I got into college and up through middle school and high school, and my dad was a 기러기 아빠, so he stayed in Korea by himself, had his own business, so he would come for months and go back. But that was really rough for all of us, and especially probably for my parents. So I thought that my way of paying back for their sacrifice was for me to succeed academically and go to a good college so that when my parents reflect back on their experience, I can say, and Hyun이 went to this good college. And then I didn't get to go to my dream college. I wanted to go to UCLA. I didn't get in. So for me at the time, it was like kind of my world was shaking. Like I thought I was going to get in. My parents are going to be so disappointed. But I think that mindset of I need to be responsible for their sacrifice and their work, I think that is just so rough. I think rough is a very mild word. That could be very devastating for a lot of immigrant children. Because what I do realize now is that like you're not responsible for your parents' life. You're not responsible for your family's feelings and emotions. And I think it has to be bidirectional. Parents should also not imply that 우리가 이렇게 힘들게 하는 건 like the reason why we're going through this is all for you. 너 잘 되라고 그러는 거야. And I think that could be I think that's very not fruitful. It's very damaging. And I say this because that mindset of like, oh, my life, like I need to do, strive for this and my value is this because of something else other than me. And once that enmeshment of values happen, then me and now just gets lost. Like, so we hear so much of, I don't really know what I want to do, because we've been functioning under the idea of like, we should be doing this. I should be listening. I should be following what the society defines to be successful. And that is so much burden. And I think it could be one of the main factors that could negatively impact Korean American mental health. So just keeping that in mind that like, yes, I'm not saying, I'm not denying, I'm not neglecting that our parent generations and our, like our former generations have done so much work. They laid the foundation for us to strive in this Korean communities. And now it's up to us to do our part in our independent and own ways. We don't necessarily have to stick to the old, I guess, protocol or the cycle and just be ready to break away and say, well, thank you. And this is what I want. Thanks to your effort, I have become a person like this, and I'm ready to be independent from you.
Yeah, both could be true at the same time, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I kind of laughed when you said, oh, I'm not dismissing. It's so funny because we always feel like we have to say that. Like,
Yes.
we're not dismissing anything,
Exactly.
but.
Yeah. So, I mean, just because we're resentful doesn't mean we're not grateful. Both can be true.
I saw that you post something about, let's see, 양파 까기 technique.
Yes.
as a technique to do your therapy.
Yes.
When do you use this? What is it? Like, can we show like how that works?
Yeah. So this is when there's a feeling, but you don't know what it is or where it's coming from. This is very commonly seen, especially in Koreans or Korean Americans, because as I mentioned, we're so used to thinking, oh, what we should be doing or what I was asked to do rather than what I want. And sometimes when these uncomfortable emotions arise, it's hard for us to determine what is the root cause of it. So I call this peeling the onion, 양파 까기, because in the surface level, we're seeing this emotion. Like, I'm so uncomfortable. I'm sitting with this discomfort. What does that mean? Okay, let's look in more. Okay, so I was upset that my friend made this comment about my college being not as good. I'm just like making things up. Why was that so upsetting? What does that mean? Oh, it means like, well, my brain is perceiving that as an interpretation of me being, I guess, lesser, like me being inferior, me not putting in enough effort. Is that true? Why do I feel so uncomfortable by that belief? That's because I feel like I've wronged my parents. Like that, I feel like I've disappointed my parents. So it is this active process of unveiling what is underneath and what my like core belief is. So I often make this analogy of our feeling and thoughts being like a big tree. So when we imagine a big tree, there's a tree trunk, and the tree trunk has all these branches coming out of them and the leaves. And in psychology, we call these thoughts that come up and I guess natural automatic interpretations as automatic negative thoughts. So people may have automatic negative thoughts about a lot of different things. When I do poorly on a test, it could be like, oh, I'm so stupid. Sometimes that just comes up automatically.
Yeah.
For some people, it could be like, oh, the teacher hates me, whatever it might be. But the thoughts that come up are like branches that grow out of the trees. And the trees are like the core beliefs that we have about the world. So if there is a core belief of, I'm not lovable, I'm not enough, then events that we encounter could be viewed and have these branches of, oh, that person doesn't like me, or I'm not going to get that job. So I think it's always important to look into what is a tree trunk. What is the filter and the schema that we have in our mind that give rise to these automatic thoughts? And then many times we don't know why these automatic thoughts happen. So that's why I think it's an active process to try to discover that by processing. And so in that post, I give a few key questions to ask yourself. So when there's a thought about, wow, like, why am I so upset? Like, what just happened? Oh, my friend said something about my appearance. Oh, like, 살쪘네. Or like, when you go to churches and 아줌마's are like, oh, 현이 살쪘네. And then like, that felt so offensive. Like, why? Because I feel like they're negatively, judging my appearance. Why does that feel so bad to me? Oh, I want to look good in front of other people. I want to be perfect, actually. And then why does that matter? Like, what does that mean to me? I think that's an important question. What does that mean to me? What does that say about me? Then that means I'm imperfect. And why is that so bad? Why is that so important? Because that means I'm a failure or I'm not lovable. No one's going to love me. Okay, so what's so bad about that? Then I'm going to be alone. I'm going to be left alone. So now looking at that statement, it's very strong, right? Like what seems to be like 살쪘네, like triggers these deep down schema of my insecurities. But if I can work on that core belief, then if you have a healthy tree trunk, it's going to give rise to healthy branches. And then just going deeper is the root of that tree. So what causes core beliefs? It could be your upbringing. It could be your attachment with your parents, how you grew up, your key, I guess, guardian figures or role models who've shaped you, childhood experiences that could all give rise to this core beliefs. So that's why I think it's an important technique in psychology or therapies.
That's so interesting. So the last question I have for you is, if you were to describe yourself as food or book or movie or song, what would it be and why?
But I guess, one song I would say my absolute favorite is Dancing in the Moonlight by the Top Loaders. It goes, da 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 dun dun dun. It has like very cute-ish a melody, and then it's like dancing in the moonlight. Everybody's singing.
You're a singer.
So I love singing. I love dancing. I love singing. And this song just comes up to me because I've always imagined, and I still do, I've been saving this song for the best part of my life. And then just last week, as I was playing with my kids in the playground, I was like, I shouldn't save this song. Like right now is just so enough. Moonlight. And I had just like crazy dance party with my kids. And I'm saying that song is perfectly descriptive of how I'm feeling now, because I don't know if there will be a best moment. I think every day can be a best moment. Every day has that potential. And then we just kind of treat it as one. And you mentioned something really important about not having enough time. Like, how much time do I have left in my life? And we never know. Like, we can never predict, right? But let's not save our joy and pleasure for some time down the future, thinking that things will be better. Oh my gosh, I'm getting like emotional thinking about it. But now is the best time. And I do want us to think about that too. And I made a post about this a long time ago. Let's not wait. Let's not wait until 즐거움을 미루지 마세요. Was what I said in the post. But I guess that's what I really try to live by now too. That I'm gonna dance in the moonlight, like whenever I want to. And no one has to give me permission.
That's right.
To do that. And I can just play that song every day and just dance to that rhythm.